meditation this evening these words of Sri Brahmananda Saraswati from the textbook of Yoga Psychology. The ultimate aim of this universe, this objective cosmos, is to lead human consciousness by means of experience from individuality to universality, and ultimately to supreme consciousness. The human ego does not have knowledge of its own ultimate nature. But by means of body, mind, senses, and the manifested universe, the human ego reaches to the final reality of pure consciousness, of not only pure consciousness, but pure existence and bliss. Meditation is so important then, because it allows us an opportunity to depart, albeit temporarily, from our ordinary state, our individual outlook, where we are disconnected from our ultimate reality, which is that we are pure consciousness, that we are the whole of existence, all knowledge and bliss. Once we knew that, we had contact with that. But we have lost that connection, at least most of the time. So each time we meditate, we're being given a golden opportunity to reconnect with the pure consciousness that is our nature, that is our origin. So deeply relax, and in these moments of silence, just be open, receptive, alert, observing your body's response to the powerful presence in this room. There is a charged atmosphere here, and we can feel it when we move deeply into the center of our being. That sense of I am. But he told us to regard every reading as written specifically for you, for me. A special message from your inner teacher. On Resurrection Day, God will say, "What did you do with the strength and energy your food gave you on earth? How did you use your eyes? And what did you make with your 5 senses while they were dimming and playing out? I gave you hands and feet as tools for preparing the ground for planting." I'm looking at our gardener. "Did you, in the health I gave, do the plowing?" You will not be able to stand when you hear those questions. You will bend over double and finally acknowledge the glory. God will say, "Lift up your head and answer the questions." Well, your head will rise a little and then slump down again. "No, look at me," God said. "Tell me what you've done." You try, but you fall back flat like a snake. "I want every detail. Say." Eventually, you will be able to get to a sitting position. And then God will say, "Be plain and clear. I have given you such gifts. What did you do with them?" So you turn to the right, looking to the prophets for help, as though to say, I'm stuck in the mud of my life. Help me out of this." And they will answer those kings. They will say, "The time for helping is past. The plow stands there in the field. You should have used it." So then you turn to the left, where your family is, and they will say, "Don't look at us. This conversation is between you and your Creator." And then you pray the prayer that is the essence of every ritual. God, I have no hope. I'm torn to shreds. You are my first and last and only refuge. Don't do your daily prayers like a bird pecking, moving its head up and down. No. Prayer is an egg. Hatch out the total helplessness inside. I hope we all got something from this, because otherwise it won't work again, and I'll have to read it tomorrow in my home for another group that's coming. So you turn to the left where your family is, and they will say, "No, don't look at us. This conversation is between you and your Creator." I said to somebody who's been away from the ashram a very long time, I said that I had felt compelled to call him. We haven't seen him years and years. And I said there was something inside me saying I should call you and urge you to come back, and I have a feeling it was Sri Brahmananda calling you, because he's an old disciple, the way we're all disciples.
And some people stayed here for many years, and then different desires pulled them away. And so they've been away. And I called, and I told him this feeling was very strong. And he said, oh, I would like to come back, but this is pressing, and my wife and my children, and all kinds of reasons why he couldn't come back. And I had brought the message, so I said, I understand, and hung up. And then for weeks after that, every morning, the message came again. Try again, get him back. I want to see him. And he had been, kind of definite with me. He wasn't coming back. So I called again, feeling a little sheepish. And he said, right away, he said, anything else wrong? I said, nothing wrong, but I'm just delivering the message again. And this time he said, I thought I explained it. And I said, I know, and I accepted it. But the message is the same, only more powerful. So he said, I will write you. And I waited, and I received an email. And this time there was a philosophical answer. Very erudite, very fine, very wise, explaining why it didn't matter if he was with his teacher physically or with us physically or not. He is always with us. That's the Vedantic philosophy. So once again I said, all right, what can I say? That's philosophy. That's what we live for, what we live with. Next morning, call again. And I was finished. So this time I called and I said, before you say anything, I don't know what to say to you because, and I repeated these words before I read them in this poem. I said, this seems to be between you and your teacher. I'm just delivering the message. So now I leave you with that because there's nothing more to say. I said that and I knew it was the right thing to say. How did I know that? Not that he came, he didn't, still hasn't come. But he stopped bothering me. I didn't hear again, because apparently I should have said that the first time I called, instead of getting into philosophical discussion. So we'll see what happens. When we get a call like that, unexpectedly, and the person is saying, I'm just the messenger, just the postman, this is coming directly from your teacher. If you get a call like that, come. Do whatever is being said to you, if it's pulling you back to your spiritual roots, to something that's very deep within you. I'm just going to ask what I always ask, because if we don't take something like this, so powerful, it's called prayer is an egg. Don't do daily prayers like a bird pecking, moving its head up and down. It's almost like in church where you go down, you get up, you go down, you get up, and it becomes mechanical. It doesn't become an offering. It's just you go down when you're told, you stand up when you're told, and you're like a bird, a mechanical bird. But we're told prayer is an egg. Hatch out the total helplessness inside through your prayer. That means to go back to that eternal prayer. I have no hope. I'm torn to shreds. You are my first and last and only refuge. That means get rid of anything secondary. Go straight to the top. Go straight to the depth of you. But was there anything that resounded in you when I read it in these words? Or the whole sense of being challenged? We used this incarnation well? Have we used it to the best of our ability? Or are we wasting time every day? Another poem that was read, I don't remember if it were Hafiz or Rumi at this point, but I repeated these words in the afternoon. The words were, I'm tired of the whiny, teary people. I want to live with lions. I want to walk with Moses. That means we want to live the high life. Aren't you ever, as I am, at the end of the day, horrified by how much time was wasted? How little was really done on the deeper level? It's shocking how much time we spend sleeping instead of penetrating those layers, those veils that cover our beauty, our knowledge, our power. We know how it feels to be connected with our essence. But unfortunately, we get caught in the habit of living that we have accepted. It's a habit, it's a routine. So, again, would anyone like to say if something jumped out at you or anything from the comments so far? My comments are being broadcast through me as a radio. Don't credit me with wisdom. I'm just a radio, and when I'm here at this ashram, I never know what's going to come out, but he told us, all his teachers, continue the program. You don't have to do anything. I will do, he said. It's not that he's a ghost. It's just that he didn't need his body either to work through us. How many of you, even though you're new, understood what I just said? Raise your hand. Should I take a chance and ask, how many of you did not understand? How many of you did not understand? Oh, do come back and live here. Because if you all understood that, it means you are ancient disciples. Because these are ancient truths that you're hearing tonight. This is Yoga Vedanta, considered the highest knowledge. There's nothing beyond Yoga Vedanta. This is the end. It includes all religions. It includes all pathways. But this is the final answer, what you'll be hearing this evening in these readings and any time you come here. So, anybody remember words from here or anything that was said that, yes, Zaina, what?
The egg a simile, because many times in my life when things in life bother me and I seem to be angry, I feel like I'm coming out of an egg, that everything is finished, I'm a new person. That's old story.
Yeah, he means that too. He means that if you've ever watched a little chick with no strength at all, pecking away to break free of that shell, that's a great wonderment in that, because that shell is hard, right? We're being told, don't do your daily prayers like a bird pecking, moving its head up and down. Your prayer is the egg. But hatch out the feeling of that total helplessness. If you don't have that feeling when you're in prayer, the prayer is useless. Because first the prayer has to be a surrender, a complete surrender. Our willingness to say, I need help. I cannot do it. I'm not the doer here. Because once that happens, what happens deep inside once we ask for help? Really ask for help. What happens to us? Are we left with any pride? No. That pride, that arrogance, that sense of doership doesn't have a chance. You can't be helpless and proud at the same time, can you? But this is what we should realize. Out of that egg, out of that prayer, emerges that helplessness that eventually leads us to our full power. The power we get from the ego is a false power. It can disappear at any time. You've had days when on Monday you felt great, on Tuesday you were completely, as he said, shred. Anybody can do that to you, because the ego is a flimsy thing. It's based on an illusion. It doesn't even exist. In our imagination, we have created a separate personality. But what he told us is first the humility, first the surrender, first the sacrifice of the illusory ego. Anything that changes is not real. The definition of reality is that which does not change. So when the ego is finally out of the way, and we're coming from the deepest place in us, where we know we're powerless, then we're open to what we truly are. Because the ego is the only thing blocking it. That sense of separation, that difference. That's all right, he's in deep samadhi. No, it happened. He couldn't be this sweet, couldn't be this good and wise if he didn't go into deep samadhi. No, he's the one I love most in this room next to Marvin. So, Gina, did you want to say something? Or did I say it when I didn't acknowledge your hand? Are you all right? You scratched an inch? Okay. It's all this shell breaking, right? All right. I want to move on. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, dear.
The hatching out of your helplessness, I took a slightly different way that felt very helpful to me.
Okay.
Maybe helpful to other people. Like breaking out of your helplessness by prayer through prayer actually felt to me like let go of your helplessness. That you actually feel a sense of power from within.
That's what I added. I said, first you need the helplessness, though. And when you feel the help, because the sense of helplessness indicates the ego has dissolved. You cannot have both. It's like you cannot be witnessing and thinking at the same time. So when you're in that completely vulnerable state, that's when we get a sense of fragrance of the power that we are. Ego does not give us a sense of power. It's a false sense of power. Because we have seen that when we're feeling very confident and we're feeling very powerful in dealing with things, it's as though nature is tempted to hit us on the head, to teach us that lesson, that that's a false sense of power. You don't know, I don't know who we really are. But it's like when I come to give these programs, there was a long program in the afternoon. I was very tired when I walked in here. And you can see the tiredness is gone. Because the body that was tired, the mind that was tired, whatever was tired, cannot stand a chance when I'm in the moment, in the here and now, talking. And that's the energy that anybody can have when the ego is not blocking it. Ego is nothing but, there are some people who've been with me a long time, you know I've said this, I've quoted Rajneesh. Ego is nothing but the what? The past. Without the past, there is no ego. The ego is the personality or the individual. And I use as an example someone who has Alzheimer's, advanced stages. If you look at an Alzheimer's patient, I don't know what to call it, patient we'll call it, she's usually the happiest person in the room if you study them. I had an aunt who had been a very aggressive type of person, and her face was always kind of in a ravaged expression and a contracted look. She wasn't very pretty to look at because she was very demanding, very judgmental. And I went to see her in the latter stages of Alzheimer. I never saw her looking so beautiful. All the tension dropped. And she looked at me, delighted to see me, because she was in contact through frequency, through vibration. And she looked healthy. So much of the illness of her body was due to her stress. So without memory, without the conditioning of the past, I don't want you to all, look forward to having Alzheimer's. But through this Vedantic approach to relating and living with one another and working as the witness more than the judge, you can get rid of those memories, get rid of those disturbing judgments we have within ourselves as to whether we're successful or a failure or a good person or a disappointing person. That's in the way of what you were feeling, that power. Without any of that, we are naturally omnipotent, all-powerful. We are naturally omniscient, all-knowing, and naturally omnipresent. As consciousness, we are everywhere. Who said that? Sri Brahmananda, all the time. But we forgot. So that's the reason we were told every day in every program, no matter how short a time it is, set aside a place, a little place in your apartment, put on a light-colored sweater or shawl, light one candle if that's all you want for your altar, but separate from the world. Stop the world and get off. And remind yourself through listening to a tape, meditating with a tape, reading some mystic poetry, going to one of the great books of conversations, I Am That. Read one chapter a night before you go to bed. But we shouldn't spend our day, and certainly the time that we should reserve to drop everything with theory people who exist in our head. Our company is very important, very, very important, because there is some company that has the fragrance of these teachings because they make you feel warm all over and they don't judge you. They may not even be philosophers. It may be the man in the delicatessen who just looks at you and takes you at face value, how you are. There are simple people who love us more than our relatives, because our relatives have memories of what we did and what we said and what we didn't do and what we didn't say. The delicatessen man doesn't know that. We don't spend that much time with him for him to be upset with us. So he deals with that face. If you're smiling, he returns the smile. I'm going to read now the reading that excited the people in the city just this last first Wednesday. We meet the first Wednesday of the month in the city. It's on our website if you live in Manhattan or close. This is from I Am That, the Great Conversations with Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, who, although uneducated, spent 3 years approximately with his teacher when the teacher visited Bombay, and at the end of 3 years, listening to the instructions, following the simplest instructions that his teacher could have given, which were, whatever spare time you have, hold on to the sense of I am. Remember your nature. Drop what is not your nature. Now, Sri Nisargadatta had to support a family because he was a shopkeeper, a beedi cigarette shop. And his family still needed him. But at the end of a period of time, he found that he wanted to listen to his teacher, and whatever spare time he had, he just meditated on the sense of I am. And after he was enlightened, after 3 years, he spent every day in his attic room upstairs. His family took care of the shop, reminding a group like this, 30 people, hold on to that sense of I am. Our teacher said, as much as possible, if you have not enough time to meditate for a half hour or an hour because you're working or busy, as much as possible during the day, watch as a witness the behavior of your body. Watch as a witness the movement of your mind. Watch your tendency to gossip, to judge, all the things that are, unfortunately, the way of our habits now. And we've got to break through that. The way to do it is through separating from it and seeing that's the way of your body, that's the way of your senses, that's the way of your thinking mind. But the way you're really happy with is the way of witnessing all that, as if you were watching a movie about your life. Not your life, but a movie. So this is called, whatever the name of the chapter, the book is called I Am That. And in that book, you will find, as great scholars have found, as we have found, not as scholars, but seekers, every single question that you could possibly have answered by Sri Nisargadatta. This is a treasure house. I Am That. I think it's still in the gift shop. You can find it there. From this conversation was taken the topic, desirelessness. When we do not desire anything, that is called the highest bliss. I give an example. Hopefully you've all been in love. May not be too long, but you all remember that feeling of being in love, even if it were a mistake to feel that way. At least it felt good in that moment. And the reason it felt like bliss is because at that moment you weren't desiring anyone else. You weren't desiring to be anywhere else. You were perfectly happy to die at that moment because you felt so fulfilled. When I say to die, I don't mean physically, I mean psychologically. Because you were in the desireless state. Eureka! I found him. I found her. I found it, the career I wanted. And then, you know the rest of the story. Sometimes it works out, as it did in our case. But there were many times that I thought I found the right work for me to do, and it felt so right, and I felt so happy, but it didn't last because I needed to be here. This is the one work, if you can call it work, in my life that is unending. It happens anew every time there's a new group here, and I'm reading in a different way, and the atmosphere. Questioner. I have met many realized people, but I've never met a liberated person. Have you come across a liberated man? Or does liberation mean, among other things, also abandoning the body, meaning just letting the body go? Maharaj, what exactly do you mean by realization and liberation? Listen closely, because he's like an explosive guru in the sense that he wasn't educated. He just spoke to you directly. He answered the question directly. He wasn't refined. He wasn't brought up, I don't think he was, no, I think he's a businessman, brought up as a Brahmin. He didn't have the courtesy. Our guru was very courteous. He wouldn't hurt you. His answers were always gentle answers, unless he regarded you as his disciple, then he was direct. But if you were a guest, he was very courteous, very kind, very patient. Not this one. This one is fresh. And I read it nicely. What do you mean by realization and liberation? I've seen him on a videotape. He says, what do you mean? What do you mean you use the words liberation and realization? What do you mean? You know, this is how he talked. And it was frightening to new people. And they said, when he threw them out, he sometimes said, get out. They came back timidly the next day and went in the back of the room and were hiding because he had no patience for just intellectual curiosity. So he confronts this man. What do you mean by realization and liberation? What do you mean? Questioner. Well, by realization, I mean a wonderful experience of peace, of goodness and beauty. To me, that's realization. When the world makes sense and there is an all-pervading unity of both substance and essence. While such experience doesn't last, it cannot be forgotten. It shines in my mind both as memory and longing. I know what I'm talking about, the questioner says. I know, because I've had such experiences. By liberation, I mean to be permanently in that wonderful state. But Maharaj, what I'm asking is whether liberation is compatible with the survival of the body. Maharaj. And what's wrong with your body? Now pay attention. He's very fresh. This man was speaking in a very lofty way, explaining what his understanding is. And Maharaj cuts right through and says, what's wrong with your body that you want to abandon it? What did it do to you? Question, well, the body is weak. The body's short-lived. It creates needs and cravings. It limits one grievously. Maharaj, so what? What's your problem? Let the physical expressions of your body be limited. Liberation, and now pay attention. Now he's going to tell him what liberation is. Liberation is of the self being liberated, meaning the individual self being liberated from its wrong and self-imposed ideas. That's liberation. It's not contained in some particular experience, however glorious you felt it was. Questioner. So does it last forever? Maharaj, all experience is time bound. Meaning, don't expect any experience to last forever. Whatever has a beginning must have an end. Questioner: so liberation, in my sense of the word, you're saying doesn't exist? Maharaj: on the contrary, you're always free. You are both conscious and free to be conscious. Nobody can take this away from you. Do you ever know yourself as non-existing or unconscious? Question: well, I may not remember, but that does not disprove my being occasionally unconscious. Now Maharaj loses patience with him. He said, look, stop talking about your experience. I don't want to hear. Why not turn away from the experience and move to the experiencer, to the one who's having the experience, and realize the full importance of the only true statement you can make. The only true statement you can make is, I am. That's all. He's telling him, stop giving me all these descriptions of your glorious experience. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. Nisargadatta says throughout the book of Conversations, I'm not interested in anything that's temporary. Why should I be? I want only what is tangible, what is real, as far as your liberation is concerned. So he just told him, stop talking about your experiences. Talk to me about you, the experiencer. I want you to realize that the only true statement you can make is, I am. You must realize the importance of that. And the question says, how do I do it? How is it done? Maharaj. And he's screaming now, I'm sure. There's no how. Why do you talk of how? There's no how here. Just keep in mind the feeling, I am. Merge in it until your mind and feeling become one. By repeated attempts, you will stumble on the right balance of attention and affection, and your mind will be then firmly established in the thought, feeling, I am. What's the funniest word he just used? Perfection may be funny to you. It's not funny to me.
I thought it was affection.
Affection. Oh, did you say affection, not perfection? I'm glad you said affection, because that's one of the funny words, because I'm going to ask you about that. He said, established? I'm stumble. He said, it's not by any discipline. It's not by any system we have. We stumble upon the balance. It's almost by inadvertence. But he wants us to have that sense that we're not doing anything. We just happened on a moment that revealed we are in harmony to begin with. That's the truth. We're in power to begin with. So those two words, you had one, he says, by repeated attempts, by constantly practicing, I think, the art of witnessing, you will stumble on the right balance of attention and affection. When people come down from the meditation, the Cosmic Temple, every Saturday afternoon, I can tell by the faces that something happened up there. And that time is, except for a few words of guidance in the beginning, it's 25 5 minutes of silence, and the people come down with an exalted look. And I always know it's real, because if I ask, did something unusual happen up there? They go, and I say, can you tell me about it? No. Something happened when the mind that records was not there. It's beyond the mind. What Gurdjieff said, beyond the body, mind, and senses. So we stumble on it when we're not doing anything, when we're just relaxed and open in a let go. Suddenly it happens by itself that we're in touch with the ever youthful, ever eternal of power, of bliss, of knowledge. And the other one was, he said, you will stumble on the right balance of attention and affection, and your mind will be then firmly established in the thought, feeling, I am. Whatever you think, whatever you say or do, this sense of immutable and affectionate being remains as the ever-present background of the mind. The immutable being we can understand, but who said affection? You. Tell me your name again. I know you're Gary? Kelly. I'm feeling an old connection, that's why I stopped it. It was very powerful for a moment. But you weren't Kelly then. You were something else. You said that the word affectionate seemed a little funny to be used at the same time with immutable. Immutable, we understand, very high word, immutable. Why is it that an affectionate being is discovered as the ever-present background of the mind? Don't think too much about it. What does it feel like that when we are in that state of openness or helplessness or surrender, we discover there's an affectionate being ever present? What is that affectionate being? What does it feel like to you? Have you ever felt when you were in prayer or meditation that there was a sweetness around you? You have, a couple of you are nodding. That's affection, isn't it? Gurdjieff says when we're deep in meditation, we can feel the embrace of God. Hafiz, the great mystic poet, says he only wants to be in the presence of those who can kiss God. And he was dancing in my form that I don't remember. But he was dancing when he said that. It's in the movies. He only wants to be in the presence of those who can kiss God. When can we kiss God? In the Bhagavad Gita, at the end of the book, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, I have told you everything because you are my beloved. When is someone your beloved? What state are you in when someone is your beloved? This is God in the form of Lord Krishna saying to Arjuna, not because he's Arjuna, but because he has reached a state. What has happened in that state? Say it again. Oneness happens. Union happens, the meaning of yoga. Otherwise, there's dualism. There's dualism. Kissing God, it's just the imagery. Kissing God. And Gurdjieff said in one of his meditations that if you like the sound of this, it's in the Blue Sky meditation album. it's my voice, but it's Guruji's guided meditation. He said, feel the embrace of nature. And if you do, he said, you will never be lonely again. So, does anyone else have a different idea of what is meant by discovering that there's an affectionate being as the ever-present background of the mind? What kind of love is that? That affection. Unconditional, thank you. So take a deep breath. And now as you breathe out, release all the language, all the words. This will only be 60 seconds. So feel yourself letting go and opening up to this now. Feeling it, perceiving it, imbibing it. Sometimes it only takes 1 minute to reconnect with your real life, your real home. I am that I am. That is our home. Krishna Devi, would you lead us in our traditional prayer? Thank you, Krishna Devi. And if some of you are feeling very high, that you may need a designated driver, take 2 cookies. Chocolate chip is a great way to come back to earth.